So today's awesome video is all about counting macros. Should you or shouldn't you, right? I see you guys ask me this question so often, and the reality is, like, for what? You really don't need to. It has nothing to do with weight loss, and it has nothing to do with health. There are some benefits to it, which I'll get into in a second, but it's a huge pain in the ass for a very minimal reward. So think of it as follows. These are the golden rules with macronutrients, right? Macronutrients are protein, fat, and carbs. Those are macronutrients. Micronutrients are vitamins and minerals. So we're gonna set those aside, okay? So macros, you want all three of these things, period, no matter what, okay? The key is the quality of the macros. So think of it as follows. We've got good fats and bad fats, good carbs and bad carbs, good protein, bad protein. What does that mean? Well, okay, conventionally raised cattle that eat genetically engineered corn and soy, that, those crops are sprayed with a bunch of chemicals. Cows don't eat corn and soy, so they get sick fast. So then they're loaded up on antibiotics so they can tolerate the infections they get in their gut from corn and soy, and because it fattens them up faster, and they're shot full of hormones, okay? That's bad meat. Now, bacon from a pig that's eating all the same crap and treated with antibiotics and hormones, and then it's got all kinds of preservatives and garbage in the meat, that's bad meat. What would be good quality meat? Grass-fed, grass-finished beef, right? Beef with no hormones, no antibiotics, eating grass. So you're getting all the good omega-3s, right, from the grass-fed beef, whereas beef that's fed corn and soy is gonna be getting a lot of omega-6s. And when omega-6 ratio gets way out of whack and we're eating too much of it, then we can get all kinds of inflammatory conditions. Bottom line is we don't want a bunch of omega-6. We want the omega-3s. So that's what I'm talking about when I talk about quality of your meat, right? Wild caught salmon, not farm raised salmon. Google it, by the way. Google wild salmon versus farmed salmon and look at the cut of the meat. Look at the fat in the meat. Look at the color of the meat. And that farm raised fish is being fed all kinds of garbage, probably the same genetically engineered corn and soy, and it's filled with dye and garbage. So the quality of the protein matters. Right? We don't want all the preservatives and all the crap in it. I eat hot dogs, but I get grass-fed, organic beef hot dogs that's totally uncured, no hormones, no antibiotics, no nitrates. So I even eat processed meat to a certain extent, but without all that junk in it. So that's a good protein versus a bad protein, okay? What's a good carb versus a bad carb? Well, first of all, you want unrefined grains, and we don't want processed sugar. So think of it as like golden rule here to keep it simple. Nothing white. No white bread, no white pasta, no white rice, no white sugar. An apple is totally different than a candy bar. Period. End of story. It just is, okay? So we want complex carbohydrates and carbohydrates in their most whole form. So think of it like this. We can just make this very simple. Fruits are fine. Vegetables are fabulous. Beans, nuts, legumes, whole grains, wild rice, think of it like that, quinoa, barley, all great, loaded with fiber, loaded with those micronutrients, the vitamins and minerals that we talked about. Totally different than a piece of white bread that's been bleached and stripped of its nutrients and its fiber. Completely different ballgame, okay? Now, mind you, this is all having to do with health. None of this has to do with weight. This is about your health, okay? Because weight is calories in, calories out, whether you like it or not. And yes, some foods over time have such a negative impact on your hormone balance, right? Your insulin, your thyroid function, all that stuff, that yes, it will lower your metabolic rate over time, over an extended period of time. But it's still calories in, calories out, it really is. So when we talk about food quality, we're talking about your health, right? Preventing disease, keeping you looking and feeling your best for years to come, right? That matters. And yeah, keeping your metabolism functioning optimally. Good foods will do that for you, okay? So when it comes to those carbs, we talked about what kind of foods to eat and in their most whole form, but would I love it if all those foods are also organic. Yeah, if you can afford it. If you can't afford it, do this. I'm gonna make this simple for you. Google the clean 15. Those are the fruits and vegetables you're gonna focus on instead of the dirty dozen, which are gonna be thin-skinned fruits and vegetables that absorb and require more pesticides, okay? It's simple. Fat, polyunsaturated, monounsaturated fats are gonna be the best. Wild-caught fish, olive oil, nuts and seeds. Then you've got saturated fat from animals. And then you've got, well, think of it like grass-fed butter, for example, which is not as good for you. Then you've got fake fats, like fractionated fats and trans fats, which hopefully should be out of our food supply. But in some parts of the world, they're still not. Hydrogenated fats, fake fats that are literally completely restructured to keep food from decomposing. It's just a very ignorant way of saying it, but that's kind of how it works, right? They hydrogenate the fat, literally. Okay, bad. So if it doesn't decompose on the shelf, it doesn't decompose in your body. There's no room for that. So you've got, right, good, better, best in each scenario. Organic, cage-free chickens and their eggs, wild-caught salmon, grass-fed beef, best, right? Better would be, okay, for example, the hot dogs I mentioned, they're not the best, but they're not filled with chemicals and hormones and antibiotics. Crap. Absolute worst would be like packaged processed bacon that's not organic, right? You get it. Good, better, best. Well, no, sorry, I screwed it up. I messed that up big time. No. Terrible, better, best. Done. So focus on the better to best on your macros. Now, should you be counting them? What should the ratio of your meals be? I get all three of my macros in every meal: protein, fat, and carbs. And I don't go crazy counting them. I don't. It's a pain in the ass. Now, the benefit of counting them is simply that, and I've done videos on this, right? I did a video on your metabolic type, or the oxidizer test, where I talked about how certain foods in certain people affect our blood sugar differently. I even put a quiz up on JillianMichaels.com, totally free. Go to JillianMichaels.com, click on blogs, and search oxidizer type or metabolic type. And you can take the quiz to see how your body breaks down carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, like the rate. Now, why does this matter? Because if you break food down very quickly, then you're gonna want a ratio that's a little more protein and fat versus carbohydrates, because proteins and fats break down more slowly into blood sugar anyway. So if you break stuff down quickly and we put more carbohydrates on that fire, you're gonna rip through that, it's gonna spike blood sugar, and it's gonna make you hungrier. So the idea of fine-tuning your macros, what's it gonna give you? More energy, and it's going to help you feel fuller for longer. So that can impact how much you eat. Because if your blood sugar spikes and crashes, you're gonna be hungry again. Now, it's very easy to figure this out. You can take the test I just mentioned for free on my website. It just teaches you to listen to your body. Or if you get protein, fat, and carbs in every meal, you should be fine. And it looks like this: an apple with almond butter. The almond butter has the fat, the protein, there's carbs in the apple. I do organic cottage cheese with blueberries. I do low fat. I get the fat, the protein, the cottage cheese, and the blueberries or pineapple, for example, gives me the carbohydrate kick, and I get digestive enzymes and antioxidants. It's pretty simple and straightforward. It doesn't have to be crazy. If you want to get crazy, that's fine. Go to JillianMichaels.com, click on blogs, take the metabolic type quiz, and it will tell you how you should tweak your ratio accordingly. Like, hey, you're gonna do better on this percentage of fat, protein, and carbohydrates. It will give you energy for longer and make you feel fuller longer. But it's not necessary. Remember, weight is calories in, calories out, okay? Beyond that, health is the quality of your food. And then if you wanna get a little nuts, because if you just put protein, carbs, and fat in each meal, you'll be fine with your energy level and your satiety. But if you wanna get a little nuts, take that metabolic type quiz, and it will help you fine tune your ideal ratio to optimize energy and fullness.